Hello, and welcome to Small Biz Catalyst. I am your host, Ayisat Abilogun. Join me as we explore ways that we as small business owners can pay ourselves a growing six-figure salary without pulling out our hair. Whether you're a small business owner or an economic development professional, this show is for you. Let's explore together.
Hi, everyone. Welcome again to Small Biz Catalyst. Today, I have a special guest for you. But before I introduce the guest, I want to share what this episode is about, especially for you as a small business owners. If you're a parent, this episode would actually be more interesting for you. Have you ever wondered what kids are learning about entrepreneurship today? Or maybe even have a kid enrolled in a college entrepreneurship program and you're wondering, what are they learning? Well, today we're going to debunk that. Through one of the schools, Paul Quinn College, we're going to debunk what they're doing about entrepreneurship, its impact on education. At the end of today's episode, you will learn the power of entrepreneurial courses and impactful entrepreneurial courses that are changing today's youth. You'd also learn how education can continuously fuel business growth and innovation. We want you as our listeners to discover practical ways to leverage educational resources and entrepreneurial programs to scale your business. All right. You might also learn some actionable strategies for building knowledge and skills that directly impact your bottom line, even when you have a limited time and budget. So let's dive in. Jeff, you are... No. Your title is way too cool. I want you to tell our audience who you are. And I especially want you to share your title because it ties into what we're doing. And we're going to just dig in a little bit into some things today. So share with our audience who you are and what you do.
Absolutely. So my name is Jeff Meade. I am the executive director of the Every Quinnite Is an Entrepreneur program at Paul Quinn College.
Every Quinnite, an entrepreneur. That is why I wanted you to introduce yourself, because I think that is so cool. But I feel like it's not just a title. And even though it sounds almost like a motto, it feels like a mission. Can you tell us a little bit about that title, what it especially means for you and for Paul Quinn College?
Right. No, that's a great question. So, in many schools, they have entrepreneurship centers, venture labs. And for us, we wanted to signal to the students exactly what we were doing. And so it really is about every Quinnite. Our name is Paul Quinn. So every Quinnite is an entrepreneur. And so that sets the bar of what we're trying to create at the school. They know they are expected to think and act like entrepreneurs. And that's been very powerful for us. And, as much as we are working on having students build businesses, it really is about how we can create that mindset. How do we actually get them to think and act like entrepreneurs?
So for those of you who don't know where Paul Quinn College is or what it is, or maybe you're hearing about it for the first time, let me give you from some perspective. So Paul Quinn College is an HBCU, which means Historical Black College and University in Dallas, Texas. And so if you're ever in Dallas, Texas, and you're looking for an HBCU, we've got one right here in our backyard, okay? And they've got a great entrepreneurial program that I wanted to share with you today. I would love to know, first of all, what led you to this role as director of Every Quinnite, an entrepreneur? What was your journey there, and why Every Quinnite, an entrepreneur?
Oh, that's a good question, a really good question, and one that I like telling. So for me, I've been an entrepreneur my whole life. In the past 2 decades, I've started, grown, and scaled businesses. Right, I've been in the advertising and marketing industry for most of my life. I have traveled the country starting businesses. And it's been an amazing ride. In my last business, I was doing management consulting. And I thought what was really interesting about what I was doing was I was helping these smaller to mid-sized boutique agencies grow into larger agencies. But what I noticed was there weren't too many agencies whose owners looked like you or I. And fundamentally, I struggled with that. And I was trying to think of some way that I could change that. And so I had this crazy idea, maybe I could create a curriculum for smaller agencies. And as I started pressure testing that idea and saying, oh, maybe I'll create a curriculum, do it online, invite smaller agencies to come do it, it ended up being a horrible business, right? Like, the business model was awful and wasn't something that I wanted to do. And so as I thought about it, I was like, there are people who understand how to build curriculum, and those people are higher education institutions. And so in many ways, I thought maybe I should partner with them in some way to get this off the ground. And so I started reaching out to my contacts and massaging and shaping the idea. And I had a conversation with some of my colleagues up at Babson College, which is my alma mater, and they've been ranked #1 entrepreneurship institution since I was there. So you're going on they've been ranked #1 for probably the past 30 years. So it's part of their DNA. And so I was talking with some folks up there about this idea, and they said to me, there was this guy up here about 2 years ago, and he was kicking the tires because he wanted to really understand how he could bring this thinking to his institution. And they said, he's down there somewhere by you in Texas. People in the Northeast don't understand the geography of Texas. So they were like, he's in Texas somewhere. And so I said to them, well, it could either be next door or it could be the distance between Boston and DC. So I said, give me his name and I'll talk to him. And it turned out to be the president of Paul Quinn College. And luckily for me, one of my clients at the time was really good friends with him. And she made the connection. And we talked about my vision for an entrepreneurship program. And he told me his vision. And after he told me his vision, I thought he was being sarcastic because he pretty much said what I wanted to do. And that was last summer. And so I started at Paul Quinn last November. So I've been here a little over a year now, and it's been an exciting ride.
Anniversary.
Yeah. Thank you.
So there's some things you said that I don't want us to miss.
Mm-hmm.
One, your network.
Right.
You pursued your network all the way up to your alma mater. And I know a lot of us are always wondering, I don't have this network, or I don't know where to find my network. Your school might actually be a great place for you to start networking and start seeking that connection. If you're a student or even an alumni and you're not doing anything with your college, that might be a great place for you to network or even find information. And then the second thing, you actually did the legwork. You kept talking about what you wanted to do and kept looking for who would do it. And I love the fact that, you actually started this on your own and you realized, okay, you know what, this is not working. This is not a great business model. And then you pivoted to partnering with an organization that you thought would help you carry out that initiative. And I just don't want us to miss that because, sometimes as entrepreneurs, we're always kicking the debt, digging deep, trying to figure out what to do. So guys, I just want us to not miss that our network is so critical. And then, of course, just voicing out your thoughts, what you want to do. Keep talking to people until you're talking to the right person.
So true. So true.
I have another question for you. So now you've started this program, Every Quinnite, an entrepreneur. What are some of the biggest challenges that your students have faced when launching their ventures, or even where are they? Where are your students entrepreneurially? Because I know a little bit background, and I'm trying to make sure that I don't frame these questions in a way where I'm ignoring those little things that people do not know. So you've started this program, you're 1 year into it. Tell us, where is it? And what are some challenges that you have faced or some challenges that your students have faced?
Yeah, so I think what's fascinating about the way we do it is we're starting with our freshmen. And so our freshmen come to campus before everybody else. They land about 6 weeks before the rest of the students in the summertime
What?
for our summer bridge program. And so one of the first faces all the freshmen get to see is me. And I put them through a principles of entrepreneurship class. And so it's rigorous. And at the end of 6 weeks, they all have to do a pitch. And this pitch is based on some problem that they have seen in their life, their neighborhood, or their community. The goal is that your pitch actually has to solve a problem. And so it's a boot camp, right? It's an accelerator on steroids, but it's an accelerator when you're 18, 19 years old, right? So that's really tough. So that's exciting. And then what we've done this first year is after summer bridge, we've taken a cohort of students and they are in a 1 year program. So it's going to be the fall semester, this semester, and spring. And so throughout this whole fall semester, we've been pressure testing ideas. Students have been combining their ideas into one business. And then when they get back from the holidays, we will actually start investing in some of those businesses. So to your question about the challenge, one challenge that I didn't want our students to have was I didn't want them to come up with great ideas and we couldn't actually bring them to life. And so when I first got here, I just hit the street and I started fundraising. And so we have a seed fund so we can invest in our students' ideas. And that is phenomenal because we don't have to wait for somebody else to say yes to our students. They essentially go through our programs. We work with mentors too. We bring in mentors to help the students' ideas come to life. And once we all say this is a viable business, right? And when I say mentors, these are folks who work at accelerators. These are folks who are in private equity. These are folks who are in industry. So they know when it's viable. And our students get exposure to these types of mentors. Then we invest in it. And the hope is that when we invest, they can actually pay it back. My goal for the fund is for it to be a recyclable fund. So we've raised $100,000. And so we are willing to invest that amount of money into our students in the hopes that their businesses will actually grow and they can pay that money back so that we have that same amount of money for the freshmen that come in next year. And then we just keep recycling the fund, right? And so the biggest challenge that I see going forward is that our students come up with these ideas, but so many of our students are from under-resourced neighborhoods. And I think one of the drawbacks to that is they haven't been given too many opportunities to dream, right? It's almost like their childhood in terms of dreaming was cut short. Everything is based in this reality of, yeah, I just got to do this. I got to do X, Y, and Z. Because I got to make sure that we have funds, right? And so it's what I'm trying to say is like when you're a kid, you're in this special place where you could dream all the time. Like you can have these big dreams, and sometimes adults may hate your dreams, and they're like, "Oh, that's crazy. You can't do that." And now you have these students who may have been told that. Then they meet me, and I'm saying, "Dream bigger." And they're like, you can see the tension and the nervousness. Like, I haven't done this in so long, so it's a muscle that I need to work. But it's fascinating that they come to me with ideas and I'm like, that's great, but we can knock this out in a couple of months. What is this going to look like in 2 years, in 3 years? So I want you to dream bigger because that's the story I want you to tell. I don't want you to tell the story of business in 3 months. I want you to tell us the vision of what this looks like 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road. So this dreaming, this place where I'm like taking on this like dream project, so to speak, that's my biggest challenge. Dream bigger and don't be afraid to fail.
That's pretty cool. So I love the way you approach this. You came in, you're putting them through a boot camp, you're helping them think about solving real life problems. So it's not an hypothetical course. And that was one of the things that actually attracted me to what you guys were doing is you're keeping it real,
Yes.
for lack of a better term. And then you're supporting those ideas financially so that your students are actually they're not at any point in an hypothetical world. They're actually putting that every Quinnite, an entrepreneur, boots on, and and literally working through that, becoming an
Absolutely.
entrepreneur, all while being a student.
Yeah. We have coined the term venture-based learning, and it really is about this learning that takes place inside of a business. And, I think me, like everybody else, as an outsider looking in, there was so much talk about does education, does schools really matter? Right? Like, what's the ROI of going to school for 4 years? And there was so much talk about the stuff you learn in school, you can't really use it once you get out into the world of work. And I heard that and I was like, some of the stuff you do just really isn't applicable to the real world. And and so what I try to do is combine the best of what school is, making sure that they understand the fundamentals, but actually putting them in places and situations where they're actually working on something that's meaningful, right? And I think it's analogous to if you were working at a really great company and they just always put you in professional development classes, right? And so you're learning and working at the same time, building skills that actually matter. And so that's what we're trying to do right now through the Every Quinnite Is Entrepreneur program.
When we talk about college being irrelevant in the workplace, for that kid who really wants to pursue entrepreneurship, it almost feels even more irrelevant because you've learned all the skills, but you don't know how to be independent and be on your own in the business world. And I remember feeling that tug when I graduated college because I was like, you know what? I would love to be an entrepreneur, but I knew that I just could. And back in my days, there were no entrepreneurial courses of any sort, imaginary or real.
Yep.
And so it was kind of like you had to get out, learn from a small firm, and then branch out on your own. And that's what I did. But I feel like you're almost bypassing that if you're able to grow in an environment where you're learning what it takes to start a business, grow a business right there in college. And by the time you graduate with all this other knowledge that you've gained, you can actually start applying the things you need into that business, which is pretty awesome. And I think we kind of glossed a little bit about this. These students are also learning to work together.
Yes.
So they're not necessarily solopreneurs, which again, for most endeavors, most pitches, people always they always want to know who's your co-founder or what does your team look like. So they're already building a team, which I just think is completely amazing.
Yeah. And as you can imagine, when we first start, they're like, I would rather do this on my own, right? No one wants to do group stuff. But they start to see the benefits slowly. I mean, here and there, they're just like, such and such isn't doing this. And I'm like, this is what happens in the real world. You got to figure it out.
So I can't help but dream 5-10 years ahead. What does this program look like? What do you see? Where do you see your students in 5-10 years? Where do you see this program? What's your vision, your 5-10 year vision? Do you mind sharing if it's not a secret?
No, it's not a secret. As you can tell by my stories, I love sharing what I'm thinking, hoping that it will enlist people into the idea and, find resources that I didn't even think about. So I think the beautiful thing about looking at 5 to 10 years is I'll have alumni, right? Like
Yes.
that would be amazing. People who have gone through the program and can really see how it benefited them. I understand that everybody that goes through my program, is not going to come out and start a startup business, right? And the genesis for this program, really, at least from our president, was really that employers were asking for employees that thought more entrepreneurially, right? And so this was really a response to what employers were looking for. They wanted employees who were creative, who thought on their feet, who essentially could be entrepreneurs inside a large organization. So this was a response to what employers were looking for. And so we're really building it out so that not only are we responding to the workplace, but we're responding to what our community needs, right? This is how we can generate wealth in our communities. So that's really exciting. So on top of alumni, what I hope we will also have a physical building, right? Just that's all of our own. So in many ways, I see that being a maker space where our students are creating and bringing their ideas to life. And then also, what I've noticed in this past year is my vision was really built around startup entrepreneurship. And I realized that was a very myopic view, right? Because entrepreneurship comes in so many different shades. And so we're starting to look at acquisition entrepreneurship. And so if I look out 5 to 10 years, this program will also focus on startups. But increasingly, we're going to start shifting into more of a kind of private equity angel investor role. And that's just to capitalize on trends we see in the marketplace, right? Like there's so many baby boomers that have businesses that they need to get rid of. And we want to start looking at some of those businesses that are in South Dallas, so in our neighborhood, and invest in those businesses. And so part of what this program will be is we will be starting up businesses, but we will actually own businesses. And so this will be a great place for us to partner with local entrepreneurs and then have our students take apprentices relationships in those businesses. And so I think it's going to be amazing what this program can do to the entrepreneurship ecosystem in Dallas.
Absolutely.
It's going to be exciting.
A lot of knowing that businesses specifically even in South Dallas would not die off is a great ROI of this program. Mm-hmm. Just looking forward, and that's pretty cool. So I always ask this one question in every episode, and I'm going to ask you, what advice do you have for today's entrepreneur?
It's got to be what I tell my students: dream big, and then dream bigger. Right? I think far too often we take the right approach in terms of, I see a problem, let me think of how to solve it. But far too often, I don't see entrepreneurs thinking in terms of scale. How do I actually build a business that's bigger than me, right? Far too often, it's the entrepreneur wants to be the center and the face and really not focused on building an enterprise. So I would say dream bigger.
So dream big and then dream bigger. That's great advice. How can our audience connect with you? And how can they find Paul Quinn? What appeal would you like to make to our audience?
The biggest thing would be, if you want to find out more about us, go to paulquinn.edu /entrepreneurship. You can find a lot about our program and what we're trying to do. We are always looking for speakers who are willing to come into the classroom and talk to our students, right? The students are building real businesses. So the more that I can put professionals that have been through the ringer, right? Whether that's their own startup or in corporate America, right? And so if I'm teaching a section on marketing, and my marketing doesn't just focus on like 4 Ps and all that good stuff. We do that, but it's also, how do you get a customer? So if I can talk to people who work at marketing at companies and they can talk about how they do that, I think that stuff is beneficial. And so for me, it's how can I bring more professionals into the classroom? And then for any of those professionals that are willing to invest more, we are trying to have those professionals also be mentors. But that means tapping into the students more often. But at the very least, we love having professionals come into the classroom and talk to our students.
Here's the key takeaway from the Every Quinnite is an Entrepreneur conversation with Jeff Meade. Entrepreneurship isn't just about starting businesses, it's about teaching people how to think bigger. At Paul Quinn College, students don't just study entrepreneurship. They solve real problems, build real businesses, and receive seed funding while they learn. But the biggest challenge isn't lack of ideas. It's that many future founders were never given permission to dream beyond survival. And that matters for local economies. Small thinking leads to fragile businesses. Entrepreneurial thinking creates resilient companies, stronger employees, and long-term job growth. So what can economic developers do right now? Support venture-based learning, programs where people build real businesses, not just attend workshops, and create partnerships that pair early capital with experienced operators and mentors. That's a key takeaway for those building systems and supporting small businesses. Now back to the conversation.
Well, thank you so much for sharing that. And if you are excited about mentoring the next generation of entrepreneurs, you definitely want to go to paulquinn.com. And that's Paul, Paul, and Quinn is quinn.edu/entrepreneurship. I just want to make sure for those who don't know, because Quinn could be spelled in so many different ways.
Right.
So Paul Quinn, PaulQuinn.edu/entrepreneurship is the space for you to start. Thank you so much, Jeff, for your time. I really enjoyed chatting with you, getting to know more about your program, about what's happening here in South Dallas in that backyard. I especially just enjoyed learning about your entrepreneurial program, and I know it's going to make such a huge difference, not only to the students, but to the communities that serve them and the community that you're in.
Right. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure speaking with you.
Absolutely. Hi there. Are you a young entrepreneur? Are you 27 years or younger? Have you had an interest in having your own business, or maybe you already do? If you are a Texan or a student in Texas and are interested in not only competing for bragging rights, but you really want to grow your business, you should register to compete in Texas Entrepreneur Ecosystem Young Entrepreneur Competition. So go to texasecosystem.org/YEC for Young Entrepreneur Competition and register today. We can't wait to see you there. You'll be connected with mentors, courses that would help you launch your business if it's not launched. And if your business is already launched and it's less than 2 years, we want you to come compete. Show the world who is the young boss in Texas. All right, see you there. Find out more on texasecosystem.org/YEC.